Warhammer The Horus Heresy, Eidolon The Auric Hammer by Mark Collins. Chapter 13, Blade to Blade. The city skyline burned, casting the spiral fortresses in another false dawn. The outer precincts were aflame, end to end, their great habitation barracks sliding inwards to block thoroughfares and supply lines. Here, towards the center, Legion armor, aerial elements, and orbital bombardment had carved great furrows into the once pristine defenses, spiderwebbing the city with cracks so vast that titans could march down them. Stormbirds and thunderhawks dueled in the skies, while Xiphon-patterned fighters swept down, torn between them, locked in their own mortal dogfights. Ships that had once been pure purple and gold, now gleaming in a maddening oil-on-water hue, fought against their sea-green rivals. Searing beams of las energy and blazing contrails of missiles cut across the heavens. Even as the stars above began to move, ships battled in the void above like warring gods, their triumphs and deaths mere flickers of light amidst the storm clouds. Yet even far below, Eidolon could hear their screams, the death cries of the men who piloted them, the howls of their dying machine spirits, the tearing roar as the great flyers hurtled from above to shatter and burn against the slab walls of the city. Each death was a beautiful thing, an entire world snuffed out in an instant, a lifetime of experiences offered upon the altar of war. The air sang, it resonated with potential, as though the whole world were a bell, struck and set to ringing. Each impact, each volley, each sanctified death fed what waited beyond. Tetracala had become the wider war in a microcosm. As the physical rebellion gave way to the ever-burning supernal conflict between reality's veil, the warp took no sides. It played its game without the understanding of those caught in its webs. The word-bearers and the Thousand Suns had ever deluded themselves that they could shape and command the immaterial. Here, now, those legions who shunned the Psyker and its gifts felt the double-edged sword that came with the warp's caress. Eidolon could feel the suggestions of claws as they raked at his armor, the whispers now loud in his ears. He had almost believed that Malachris and the others were mad and broken, slaves to impulse and ruled by whim alone. Yet the voice endured, taunting and mocking, purring in the recesses of his mind, seeking purchase. This is what you were made for, raised up from the dust to bring the galaxy to heel. You were made to conquer creation, just as we were shaped to rule it. Kings are nothing without a kingdom. All monarchs deserve a throne.
Be silent,
he hissed to himself. Eidolon strode ahead of his men, far enough away that none of them could bear witness to his mania. He had been thought weak and broken before, as though the Primarch's blade had robbed him of what he was. He might have thought that once, that they declared him the soul-severed, the shattered being. He had been pitied and reviled, mocked and underestimated, yet always he had risen to seize power. Every setback could be surmounted, even without the hollow promise of the shattered king. Now the gods themselves sought to make sport of him, and the War Master's vermin sought to shame him. He refused to submit. Fate could toy with him all it wanted.
I have passed through death. There is nothing left to fear.
As though in answer, the heavens opened up once more, and a fresh brace of Dreadclaw and Charybdis assault craft slammed home, disgorging more warriors of the Third in their wretched glory. Von Calder strode through the throng of deploying Astartes, flanked by Flesh Legion warriors as yet unblooded.
Equerry,
Eidolon said.
Welcome to Tetracala.
He watched Von Calder drink in every detail of the dying world around them. Like any other warrior of the Emperor's children, he was forever seeking advantage, passing every detail of the war zone. Lord, he said eventually. Eidolon smiled.
Can you taste it?
He asked.
The warp. I can feel it everywhere, coiling and clawing at me. It will slither and undo this world, as it tried to do with the fleet. They have set their game, and all we can do is play our parts upon the board.
Who have? Von Calder asked.
The gods.
Eidolon purred.
They toy with our little lives, yet the Dark Prince is the most playful of their number, seeking always to ensnare us with our own vices. His hand wounds and it shapes. We are all made stronger and stranger by it.
Braced by the venom, inoculated for the future to come.
How philosophical you've become, Equerry.
Eidolon said. He reached up and smoothed some of the remaining lank hair from his eyes.
I will know if Garrug tries to use his sorceries against me. I feel it in my soul, burning like poison.
If he...
This is a game, yes? I have told you as much. The servants of the War Master are not created equal, not in the eyes of his favoured sons. He has set these forces against me for some petty advantage. Garrug, who else could it be? It is not simple coincidence or providence that put us on this path. Not the whim of fate. It is design, malicious design.
Von Calder looked at Eidolon, concern momentarily flickering across his childlike features, before he busied himself once more with his Narthekium.
The men are gathered,
Eidolon said, and activated his hammer.
Now is the time to strike. Now we show our cousins what we are, face to face and blade to blade.
Eidolon led the advance up through the central thoroughfare of a great processional, sweeping his hammer around to reduce the statuary to dust with single strokes. He had allowed a rough vanguard of less disciplined warriors to rove ahead of him, indulging their lusts as they went. Already there were Tetracolin bodies crucified to the walls, their bowels hanging loose, the marble daubed in mad smears and whirls of blood and other fluids. The Emperor's children made art as they moved, twisting the battlefield into a tableau of the insane and the depraved. For all their other failings, the Sons of Horus exhibited no such distractions. Sea-green armoured warriors hurled themselves from the nearby rooftops, jump axe flaring in the smoky darkness, casting themselves like comets and artillery shells across the tortured skein of the night. Chthonian legionaries slammed into the midst of the Emperor's children, lashing out with chainswords, bolters flaring with sudden thunder. The third rallied swiftly, turning to repel the assault, even as brothers fell in spurts of gore. Limbs tumbled free, an arm hurtled across the melee, slapping wetly against Eidolon's armour, adding yet another stain. He spun about, and his hammer came up, blocking the frenzied attack of an assault captain, his armour scored with kill marks. Coins and bones rattled against his plate before the lightning-wreathed hammer swept them off and away. Chains broke, wire fled to nothing in the annihilatory impact.
Is it worth it, fighting us to be king of nothing?
The other warrior spat, his helm still possessing the lupine markings that had defined its previous heraldry. He swayed away from Eidolon, then surged forward, chainsword scraping against the Lord Commander's breastplate. Eidolon grunted as he staggered back, feeling the flutter of pain through his muscles. Nothing, yet you could be so much more if you simply... Eidolon snarled away the agonies and the imprecations. Each strike and attack made him feel more as he had before his first death, reinvigorating him until action and impulse sang as one. Another son of Horus interspersed himself between Eidolon and his master, snarling as he raised his bolt gun in a futile display of loyalty. Eidolon spun the hammer about and swung it in a horizontal arc, obliterating the man at the waist. Shards of smoking vertebrae skittered off the captain, and he bellowed his hate and threw himself back against Eidolon once more. Eidolon slid backwards, dodging left and right as the angry, reckless strikes hurtled towards him. Seeking a clean kill, Eidolon lurched forward, close enough that he could read the braggadocious gang markings that practically screamed the man's identity.
This is how you die, Narman Ganonix. Far from home and in futility. Slain by your superior.
Eidolon tensed as the whirring teeth of Ganonix's blade clawed at the haft of his hammer before driving him back. He chased the warrior across the burning rock of the dying world, through brothers in both colours. Eidolon hooted as he pursued him, blows searing through the air. Plate buckled and paint melted as Narman Ganonix sought in vain to parry the Lord Commander Primus's wrath. He ducked another swipe and then drove his hammer up and into the warrior's chestplate, doubling him over. Eidolon forced one boot down onto Ganonix's shattered chest and raised his pistol. The weapon clicked and whined in his grip, brimming with killing energy. There was a muted green flash of radiation as it bore its beam through him, cooking him from the inside out. Steam hissed from between the plates of his armor in a wet, stinking exhalation. Others came onwards, weapons roaring, blades shining, champions and heroes of the 16th Legion, come to sell their lives dearly. Onos Ginzi with his crackling power sword, and Varadon Domon bearing an axe in hand. Blade met metal in an eruption of sparks and lightning. Like the discharge from some volcanic eruption, blows rained down upon him, driving him back, scraping the golden surface of the once noble weapon. Eidolon spat in their faces at the impassive facades of their helms. The flat of the blade caught him across the pauldron, driving him back in a concussive burst of force, Armor plating cracked. Blood ran down his flesh and forced its way through the wounded ceramite. Around him was a storm of shot. Heavier weapons had committed from the rear of both lines. Chthonian artillery hurling death from within the walls of the final fortress, while the Emperor's children returned fire, picking the city apart with flame and steel. Bodies and debris alike were crushed as 2 3rd Legion Fellblades, Phoenician's Claw and Flame of Chemos, made their steady advance along a memorial avenue, smashing their way through artfully crafted sarcophagi and cenotaph pillars. The grinding treads tore at the once beautiful earthworks and withered gardens, crushing forgotten corpses beneath their inexorable progress. The tanks were firing as they went, picking targets with a precision that defied their twisted metalwork and undulating hulls. Corpses had been hung from the sides or left to trail behind the war engines, tortured human bodies bound into close gibbets, the metal biting into flesh and wedged between clenched teeth. Plegua and his cacophony pushed up to join Eidolon, sonic weapons screaming into the greatest symphony of war, driving back their enemies with a wall of savage force. Ginzi and Domon staggered backwards, and Eidolon seized the advantage. He lent his own psychosonic scream to the wailing gale, throwing himself forward, hammer sweeping the legs out from under Onos Ginzi. The son of Horus's blade flew from his hand, and Eidolon strode over his broken body, even as one of the cacophony lumbered forward to deal the killing blow.
Beneath me.
Eidolon spat.
My time and talents shall be spent elsewhere, against worthy prey.
He nodded to Plegua.
Finish this rabble. Their master will provide me the challenge I require.
I really like this. I like how the apothecary, the equerry, he's just on it, and he has genuine concern. I think that fraternity is something that often gets forgotten about in the Chaos Legions or the Heretic Astartes. I know everyone's playing power games, especially I know everyone is playing power games in some of these legions, and everyone wants to advance themselves and be in charge and all that shit. But I think that there is a genuine fraternity when all is said and done between the Emperor's children. I think this shows that. They all have their roles and they all have their causes, and ultimately, despite their differences, they are united as Legion. Even if they butt heads at times. I like Plegua. He's like the guy, if that makes sense. He's always there doing what needs to be done, just like. And I think that's something the Noise Marines or the Cacophony. I think that's something that's kind of shown throughout the book. It feels like they are very much a bit beyond everything else in the Legion. Not in a rank and file kind of way, but just in where they are in the favor of Slaanesh and how that affects their influence. Also, they have the best weapons. Yeah. But yeah, no, I enjoyed that. The savagery of the combat is really nice, and it kind of conveys that ferocity. The space battle and aerial battles are cool, but I feel like they kind of got a bit glossed over. That is one criticism I will give of this book so far. It's like, yeah, they're happening, they're cool, they're there, but it doesn't go into super much detail of it. Not like in the line Son of the Forest. They had a really good space battle that was like super detailed about like the positioning and impact of individual ships and movements and weapons, and it really like built that battle in your head. This is more like focusing in on Eidolon's skirmish and his journey to get to where he actually wants to be, which is fine. I was just hoping for something a bit more. Maybe we'll get that later, but who knows? Who knows? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. We've got the next one coming up soon. Please do like, share, subscribe for more. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely day wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for giving me your time and choosing to listen to my readings. I hope you have a great day. Mwah.